I think this is it right here. Hutch was a monster. Oh, yeah. Number 2. They're going to have every bit of that against the Cardinals. The Lions head out to Arizona to play on the road for the first time this season against the Cardinals. Both teams enter this matchup at 1-1, but with very different agendas. The Cardinals are trying to prove that they are the team that beat up on the Rams in Week 2, while the Lions are trying to answer all of their offensive questions and see if their defense travels. Welcome back to the channel. I am your host, Johnny Gaz. Thank you for returning for another video. The Lions travel to Arizona to play the Cardinals this Sunday, September 22nd, starting at 4:25 Eastern Time. Let's get into our full game preview. Of course, we'll start by looking at the headlines and storylines. We'll look at the key matchups and the X factors, those differences in the game. And hang on to the end of the video where I'll give my score and final predictions. Let's go. Before we head out to the desert, make sure to like the video if you dig the vibe here at Johnny Gaz Sports. Hitting that subscription button and notify bell is the best way to make sure you don't miss any future videos. I'd love it if you consider subscribing to the channel. We just got over 2,000 subscribers. Thanks to you guys. There is a membership option available with a ton of exclusive content as well. Definitely comment down below. Let me know who you have in this matchup in Week 3, Lions versus Cardinals. Let's get into it. Let's dive into Week 3. Let's kick it off with the headlines as we get into Week 3. Lions traveling to Arizona. They are coming off an uncharacteristic loss in Week 2 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home. Several offensive questions to be answered here. They finished 1 for 7 in the red zone in Week 2. The defense for the Lions has actually held up very well in the first 2 weeks. Aiden Hutchinson is coming off an historic performance in Week 2 against the Bucs, finishing with 4.5 sacks. They also have a coaching gaffe to answer to. At the end of the first half in that game, they were not able to get their kicking team on the field to kick a last-second field goal, instead taking a penalty for too many men on the field. So the Lions have a lot of cleanup to do as they enter this Week 3 matchup. On the other end, the Arizona Cardinals were down in Week 1 and then very up in Week 2. They beat up on the Los Angeles Rams in Week 2, both offensively and defensively. Kyler Murray finished with a perfect passer rating, finishing with 3 touchdowns on the day. The question is for the Cardinals, is the defense as bad as they were in Week 1? And is the offense as good as they were in Week 2? Let's discuss the key matchups in Lions versus Cardinals, and I think there will be several of them. From the Lions' perspective, I think the biggest matchup will be their defensive line against Kyler Murray. They need to be able to contain him. They showed in last week's loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers that a running quarterback can get to them and get by them. Baker Mayfield actually scored the winning touchdown on a very clear quarterback draw play. I mean, a design play that just beat them up the middle. So the Lions will have to be on their game here against Kyler Murray, which again finished with a perfect passer rating in Week 2. Another key matchup will be the Lions defense, their front 7 against the Cardinals running game, which has been very good through the first 2 weeks of the season. Of course, they feature James Conner as their running back there. Conner finished 21 carries for 122 yards. That's a 5.8 yard average against the Rams in Week 2 and did have a touchdown. Overall, the Cardinals had 40 rushing attempts in Week 2, so they do like to get things going and maintain their rushing game. The Lions' calling card on defense, even though they have been historically bad in seasons past, has been their rushing defense. So if they can hold up, they'll have a good chance against the Cardinals. Another matchup to look out for, the Lions' offense against the Cardinals' D. Now, I say that so openly because the Lions' offense has so many questions to answer here as they enter this Week 3 matchup. They were very pass-heavy against the Todd Bowles Buccaneers defense, and that just didn't work. They were able to move the ball up and down the field, but once they got in the red zone, everything stalled. So how does the Lions' offense change here in Week 3, and how do the Cardinals' defense respond in this case? The Lions' offensive line against the Cardinals' linebackers. I think that's another key matchup here in Week 3. The Cardinals had 5 sacks against the LA Rams last week, and all 5 sacks came from their linebacking crew, mainly Dennis Gardeck. He had 3 sacks in that Week 2 matchup, so that will be somebody to look out for. Of course, we talked about Aiden Hutchinson against the Cardinals' offensive line. They do have an injury up front, which we'll talk about as we get closer to the matchup, but Hutchinson finished with 4.5 sacks against the Bucs. Him along with the interior now showing a lot of good pressure with Aleem McNeil, DJ Reader, Levi Onwuzurike. Lions still trying to figure out what they're going to do on the other edge. But with Aiden Hutchinson now starting to take off, the Cardinals will have to be on lookout. That then leads us into the X factors who I believe will control the game here. Week 3, Lions going to Cardinals. I think you got to start with Kyler Murray. Again, that was a fantastic performance in Week 2 against a depleted Rams team. Let's be real. But he had fantastic numbers. 17 of 22 for 266 yards and the 3 touchdowns. Again, perfect passer rating. That just doesn't happen. I think another X factor has to be Hutchinson, and we won't spend more time on him. We know what he's capable of and wants to continue here early in the season. Third X factor, I think, is Sam Laporta, the tight end for the Lions. He has been just basically held quiet these first 2 weeks. I think he had only 2 receptions for 13 yards against the Buccaneers. And the Lions clearly make an effort to feed who they haven't fed so far. Amon-Ra St. Brown in Week 2, and I believe Sam Laporta will be that guy in Week 3. So be on the lookout for some big numbers from the tight end this week. I think you also have to be on the lookout on the Lions offensive side for David Montgomery. With the lack of success in the red zone, with their lack of success overall in the passing game, Jared Goff had 2 interceptions last week. I think the Lions will be run heavy in Week 3, and I think they're going to lean on David Montgomery. He's strong, he's tough. Feels like he's even gotten bigger and stronger this year. And I think, again, they're really going to rely on their offensive line. The true strength of the Lions is what they do up front and what they do in the running game, and I think they're going to get back to it here in Week 3. I think Marvin Harrison Jr., who had his breakout performance in Week 2 against the Rams, he had 4 receptions for 130 yards and the 2 scores. The Lions will have to be on the lookout. They have their revamped secondary. It's now Week 3, and they have looked okay in the first few weeks. We've talked about Terrion Arnold's struggles here with the penalties, but I think as he starts to get more experience, that should clean itself up. It will be a good matchup here and see how they handle Marvin Harrison Jr. Lastly, I talked about the linebacking crew for the Cardinals. They've been sack heavy. Dennis Gardeck had 3 sacks last week against the Rams. The Lions will have to hold up against him and the rest of the linebacking crew here in Week 3. In Sunday's matchup, I believe the difference in the game, Lions going to Arizona, will be what happens in the trenches. I think the Lions' offensive and defensive line will overpower the Arizona Cardinals. We know the Rams in Week 2, again, were depleted all over the field. The Lions are coming in relatively healthy. They're bringing back Marcus Davenport for this matchup against against the Cardinals. And on the other side of Aiden Hutchinson, which is really starting to show that he is one of the better defenders in all of the NFL. I think the Lions control the game there. The best offensive line in football needs to put their foot down on this matchup. They need to recover from their Week 2 loss and show what they do best, and I think they do that in this matchup. They need to get back to basics. The Cardinals are also missing tackle Jonah Williams. He's now moved into the injured reserve category for his knee injury, and that will certainly help the Lions' pass rush and a guy like Aiden Hutchinson and Marcus Davenport. So look for the Lions to overwhelm the trenches in this game and for that to be the ultimate difference. As of late in the day, September 18th, the line on this game is still Lions -3, and the over-under is set at 52.5. I believe the Lions will control this game up front, not only offensively but defensively, and I think that will slow things down. A week and a half ago, I would have told you a matchup like this would be a huge shootout, big-time points, but I think what happened in Week 2 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will dictate what the Lions want to do here in Week 3. Now, don't get me wrong, the Arizona Cardinals are dangerous right now. A guy like Marvin Harrison is coming into his own, and we know what Kyler Murray is capable of. If the Lions can't contain Kyler Murray, then a lot of this prediction may change. But ultimately, I see the Lions being in control in the trenches. I believe the Lions will win this game 27-21. That will move the Lions to 2-1, and the Cardinals would then fall to 1-2. So you got to let me know what you guys think. We got Lions going to Arizona. Give me a final score prediction. Am I off base here? Did I miss anything? Let me know down in the comments. Interacting with you guys is so much fun. Thank you so much for your time. Make sure to hit that like button if you dig the vibe here and what we did today. The subscription button and notify bell is the best way to make sure you don't miss any future videos on the channel. We do have a membership option available and a ton of exclusive fun content right there for you. Definitely come back and see me. More than anything else, I want to make sure you take care of your mental health. That is of utmost importance. I appreciate your guys' time. Have a fantastic weekend. Go Lions.